while stadiums erupt and fans paint their faces for a game's outcome, a significant portion of the population feels absolutely nothing, and brain science suggests they might be neurologically unique. This isn't a simple difference of opinion. It's a fundamental divergence in how our brains process community, reward, and narrative. It's as if two groups are listening to the same world, but one is tuned to a frequency full of roaring crowds and epic stakes, while the other hears only the quiet, intricate soundtrack of individual pursuits. Stay right here, because understanding this divide doesn't just explain sports, it reveals fundamental truths about how our brains assign value and build identity. The common assumption is that indifference to athletics means you're dispassionate or dull, but the reality is far more compelling. Your lack of interest isn't a flaw. It's a feature of a differently calibrated mind. We're about to journey through neuroscience, social psychology, and even genetics to uncover why your experience of passion might be mapped onto an entirely different landscape. Let's address the core mystery first. Why does anyone care so deeply? Humans evolved as social creatures, where group membership was synonymous with safety. Your tribe was your shelter, your food source, your defense. Sports fandom is a modern, branded proxy for this ancient tribal need, complete with its own colors, anthems, and territories. When a supporter watches their team, their brain chemistry responds as if their actual kin were involved, releasing oxytocin and other bonding neurochemicals that foster a powerful, visceral sense of belonging. It's a biological shortcut to feeling part of something larger, a primal itch being scratched by a very modern spectacle. But here's the fascinating twist. Individuals who are undrawn to sports often exhibit what researchers term reduced group-based identity formation. Their sense of self is constructed from different materials. It's less dependent on external affiliations and more anchored in internal values, personal achievements, or tightly knit, real-world circles. They are more inclined to derive personal meaning from internal sources rather than collective ones. Imagine identity as a building. For some, it's a skyscraper supported by the external steel of a group. For others, it's a cabin built from the timber of personal experience, standing on its own foundation. Empirical evidence supports this. Studies indicate those with minimal sports interest demonstrate significantly lower levels of automatic in-group versus out-group bias. Their brains don't immediately categorize people into us and them based on a jersey. In simpler, more profound terms, they don't instinctively root against someone just for wearing a different color. This isn't about being morally superior. It's about a cognitive pathway that simply isn't as activated by symbolic, tribal competition. Their social world is often built on different principles, shared ideas instead of shared allegiance, personal connection over parallel celebration. Now, the neurological mechanisms at play in a dedicated fan are remarkably potent and worth examining in detail. Remember the jittery excitement before a big surprise, the heart-thumping anticipation of a gift. That's the neurotransmitter dopamine, the brain's chief currency of desire and reward, firing along its pathways. For the sports enthusiast, every play, every moment of uncertainty in a match delivers a microdose of that anticipatory reward. It's a roller coaster of what if that the brain finds irresistibly engaging. Brain imaging reveals that viewing your preferred team compete activates neural circuits strikingly similar to those engaged by gambling or games of chance. The ventral striatum and other reward centers light up not just for a win, but for the possibility of a win. This is crucial. The critical ingredient is unpredictability. Not knowing the outcome sustains dopamine release. employing a principle called intermittent reinforcement, the most habit-forming reward pattern psychology recognizes. It's the same engine that drives slot machine addiction, the unpredictable payout. Your brain learns that paying attention might lead to a glorious reward, and that might is far more powerful than a guaranteed will. For the person unmoved by sports, these specific competitive scenarios simply don't engage that dopamine-driven reward loop in the same way. The lever they pull in their mind doesn't connect to that particular jackpot of vicarious triumph. And this predisposition isn't always a choice. It might be written in your code. Genetic research indicates that variations in how we process dopamine, in the sensitivity of our dopamine receptors, can predict an individual's level of interest in watching competitive events. Your apathy toward the final score, therefore, could be as much a part of your biological inheritance as your eye color. Your brain's chemical landscape may simply lack the specific landmarks that make the sports journey compelling. There's another profound psychological layer at play: BIRGing, or basking in reflected glory. This is the subtle linguistic dance fans perform. After a victory, they linguistically merge with the team. "We were incredible tonight." Following a loss, the distance appears they just didn't show up. It's a subconscious strategy for managing self-esteem, tying one's emotional state to an external entity's success. Those indifferent to sports are generally less prone to this shifting of pronouns. Their self-worth remains more consistent, less tied to the fluctuating fortunes of a distant group. Their emotional stability isn't yoked to events they cannot influence. Their sense of accomplishment is drawn from a well they themselves have dug, not from a shared, unpredictable river. Before we go further, let's be absolutely clear. This isn't about declaring a superior mindset, but about illuminating distinct psychological profiles that shape human experience. Interestingly, and somewhat counterintuitively, sports fans can show heightened empathetic responses in specific, focused contexts. They practice regularly. The act of caring deeply about the struggles and triumphs of other people. If those people are strangers in uniforms, it's a targeted empathy, a muscle exercised in a specific gym. So why doesn't the non-fan extend that same empathy toward the athlete on the screen? It's rarely a lack of capacity, but a matter of allocation. Think of your emotional energy as a budget. Everyone possesses a finite reservoir for deep investment and concern. Those who don't channel a portion of that budget into sports frequently direct it elsewhere, into the intricate drama of social issues, the profound depth of intimate relationships, the boundless exploration of artistic pursuits, or the rigorous challenges of intellectual discovery. Research consistently connects lower sports interests with higher scores in the personality trait, openness to experience. These individuals find profound reward in aesthetics, nature, philosophy, and complex ideas. They are seeking the same core human needs for meaning, connection, and transcendence. They are just sourcing them from a different supplier. Their dopamine hits might come from the perfect turn of a phrase in a novel, the solution to a complex problem, or the silent awe of a mountain vista, rather than a last-minute touchdown. And sometimes, this indifference is not just a neutral difference, but a protective stance with its own backstory. Perhaps past exclusion in gym class or discomfort with aggressive competitiveness shaped this path. Maybe it's a quiet pushback against a culture that often equates masculinity or camaraderie with sports knowledge. Maybe the sheer spectacle of grown adults screaming at televisions over orchestrated ball movements seems fundamentally irrational. Your disinterest has its own narrative, its own psychology of defense, or simply of alternative attraction. Or perhaps it needs no story at all, it just is. Both are perfectly valid starting points for a mindset. This brings us to the core, often frustrating, misunderstanding between the two groups, the very source of meaning and drama. Sports enthusiasts immerse themselves in a grand, unpredictable, real-time narrative. It's the underdog story, the legacy, the dynasty, the bitter rivalry. It's compelling because it is unscripted life fast theater, with real stakes for the participants. For others, that same unpredictability feels like empty chance, a narrative with no lasting personal resonance. They think, why would I voluntarily invest my finite emotional capital in an uncontrollable outcome performed by people I don't know, in a contest that doesn't alter the fabric of my actual life? They crave narrative, too, but seek it in places where the threads connect more directly to their own tapestry in the character development of a novel, the creative process of a project, the personal story of a relationship. Neither perspective is incorrect. They represent alternate, deeply human paths to fulfilling our innate craving for story. One looking outward to a public epic, the other inward or to a more intimate scale. Psychologists frame this divide as one of parasocial versus direct engagement. The fan cultivates a one-sided parasocial relationship with a team or player. The investment is real, the emotions are powerful, but the relationship flows largely in one direction. The non-fan often exhibits a preference for investing emotional energy where there is tangible reciprocity in endeavors where their involvement directly affects the result, where they are an active participant, not a passive observer. This could be in nurturing a friendship, building a business, creating art, or raising a family. Each strategy is a different, evolved answer to life's fundamental search for engagement and impact. One finds profound meaning in witnessed glory, the other in authored action. Studies on flow states, those moments of complete absorption, where time falls away, show this peak experience can be accessed through countless portals. For some, it's the immersive flow of watching a tactical masterpiece unfold on the pitch. For others, it's the flow of writing code, playing an instrument, or crafting a piece of wood. The state is identical, the gateway is personal. Your brain isn't missing out. It's just using a different door to enter the same room of focused engagement. Furthermore, there is a compelling argument that those not focused on spectator sports frequently cultivate a stronger, more consistent sense of presence in their immediate, personal lives. Their attention and emotional energy are not being siphoned off for hours each week to follow an external narrative. That energy remains in the room, available for their own struggles, their own creative projects, their own quiet moments of reflection. They aren't spending 3 hours every Sunday experiencing someone else's struggle. They are engaged in the authorship of their own. There is something quietly radical and self-possessed about that choice in a world constantly begging for our spectator attention. In an age of curated highlights and digital fandoms, choosing not to spectate is a deliberate act of attention conservation. So, what's the ultimate takeaway? If the pageantry of athletics leaves you cold, you aren't lacking a crucial human component. You are not broken or boring. Your neurological reward system, your social wiring, and your empathy budget are configured on a distinct blueprint. You are optimized for a different kind of engagement. Indifference to sports isn't an empty void. It's a space deliberately or instinctively cleared for other passions to grow. It is a positive affirmation, conscious or not, for a different set of values. The next time you're asked, "Did you catch the incredible game?" And your answer is a genuine, unapologetic no. Remember the complexity behind that simplicity. You're not on the sidelines of the human experience. You are simply playing a different game on a different field with its own rules and its own magnificent rewards. Your psychological blueprint might just be focused on an entirely different set of victories, the quiet triumph of understanding, the personal breakthrough, the creation of something new. If this perspective resonates with you, your mind likely processes the world in unique and valuable ways. Help us explore more minds like yours. Hit the like button and subscribe to Mind Explained for deeper dives into the psychology of everyday life. Your unique way of seeing the world is exactly what we find fascinating.